I think we're on. There we go. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday. It's a day of the week, and I'm Duane Whitmer, and it's the weekly Whitmer Wednesday. We've had a brief, pause in doing these. I apologize. I had some things come up. We'll talk about that later. Eventually, we'll see. Who knows? But I just want to say, got some things to say to this week. This is the weekly Whitmer Wednesday. Like I said, we've been on a delay for about 6 weeks. And during the 6 weeks, I've had anywhere from 1 to a million people reach out and tell me that they didn't know where I was and they missed me. Anywhere from 1 to a million of people asked when we're coming back. And we are back. We were hoping to be in a different studio today. Unfortunately, we're not in the new studio yet, which I'm still in my Hamburg office. Trying something new, got a new camera, new microphone. Hope they work. Hope you guys can hear me. If not, that's embarrassing. I suck at technology. New camera, wider lens, so you don't see as much of me, which is nice because I'm chubby. But you can see the windows. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm still getting the whole hang of this. I'm not sure. I like the windows. It makes the sun in. It's nice. But I don't know how I feel about the frame up. We'll deal with that later. This week we're going to talk about a couple things. One being, it kind of relates to more defiance agenda type stuff, and another one being why I think the political parties are an absolute grift. Both of them, both political parties are an absolute political grift, Ponzi scheme. They're essentially Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff's biggest mistake was he wasn't an elected official, and his second biggest mistake was the people he ripped off were the political class. Or else, I mean, if he was a mayor or a congressman, he could have done what he did for decades and been okay, and no one would have cared. So, Bernie Madoff's biggest problem was he wasn't an elected official. He was in the private entity market, and he ripped off political class, and they got pissed and put him in jail. But the political parties are a grift scheme and a jobs program. And then when we talk about that, the people always say, well, Duane, what's your solution then? If we don't support, worshiping politicians, what do you believe in? And it's defiance agenda and taking care of yourself. I've determined that there was a study done, I forget the numbers, but something like 30% of the population thinks chocolate milk comes from brown cows. I've decided that a large chunk of the population isn't going to care what I have to say or do what I say has to be done because they're stupid and lazy. And I'm done catering to those people. If I say that, believing in politicians is stupid and believing in any political party to save you is a failed ideology, and your response is, well, what do we do, buddy? You're just not bright. And I can't help you at this time, because if you can't take care of yourself, if you're looking for another man or a woman or a political party to save you, I'm sorry, you don't lack the mental capacity to think for yourself and solve your own problems. I'm more interested in working the ones that can and are doing that. At this time, there's a small percent of the population that comes out to, but I'd rather work with those people than be dragged down by idiots. I'm sorry. It's what this has become. In 2020, I ran for Congress, and I truly believed I was the best. Well, I was the best candidate. There's no truly believe. I was the best candidate. I ran against Chris Jacobs and Nate McMurray, and all the Republicans told me, well, if we don't vote for Chris Jacobs, we're going to get gun control. And then Chris Jacobs sponsored a bill that would have banned assault rifles. So you voted for Chris Jacobs, and you still got gun control. And I tried to warn people, and I was, well, we got to believe. Oh, they're like Mickey Mouse because they're just cartoonists. And I argued with these people all the time. I had lots of arguments with a lot of people that, Chris Jacobs was a terrible, terrible candidate. And no one believed me. He was a terrible candidate. Whitmer was right. In 2021, I ran for comptroller, and I said that the government, especially in Erie County, New York, where I live, is a criminal organization. The largest criminal enterprise is the state. Look, if you're mad someone steals a can of gas out of your garage, you're out $10. Inflation and the Biden economy, you're out $25 now. But the government steals 25% of your income every day to murder brown people in the Middle East or give their friends jobs. That's a much bigger. I'd gladly let someone steal a can of gas out of my garage every week if it meant keeping 25% of my income and brown people alive in the Middle East. So that's really it. You got the county executive, you got the Congress, they're taking your tax dollars. You're an ATM, you're an automatic tax paying machine for the political class to pilfer your money, give it to their friends, and give you table scraps. And if you believe that a political party is coming to save you, a politician's coming to save you, and you need them to save you, okay, good luck. have a good life. Keep running on that treadmill. You're like, keep running in that hamster wheel. I'm more looking for the people that believe in direct action, defiance, and building alternative ideas. That's the one thing I always get hit with when I make fun of candidates and politicians is, well, what's your idea, buddy? Look, it's the state of defiance. It's the defiance agenda. It's direct action. Direct action, which, by the way, was coined by a man named James Ostrowski, who's one of my mentors. I'm saying this on a public and recorded line, so if the feds are watching, James Ostrowski was one of my mentors. But no, I met him in 2020 when I was running for Congress, and he made good points that most of the population struggles to understand the bigger picture. They're lazy, they're dumb, they're overweight, and I'm sorry to say, I'm really not sorry anymore. It's what are you gonna do? Be mad at me? That's fine. Everyone's mad at me anyways. But yeah, so I came up with the defiance agenda and the state of defiance. I live in Western New York, and I declared my property the state of defiance, not in like a weird sovereign citizen way, just in like a joking way. And it's defying, not really, when I say the state of defiance, I don't necessarily mean committing crimes and building machine guns and committing tax fraud. It's not necessarily that. Although if you want to do that, it's your life. I don't really care. It's more about defying social norms and defying, the rest of the population's belief that a central bureaucracy works, that government's here to help you, that politicians are your friends. And it's just starting to defy kind of the social norms that people are starting to fall into, where, look, you can run for school board and be mad at what's going on in public schools, and you can run on that treadmill. But in New York State, the AG just reached out and put a letter out to school boards saying, you will comply with this or we're pulling your funding. Simple as that. So you can run on that treadmill, you can run on that hamster wheel, or you can pull your kids from public school, which is what you should do. That's it. There is no great solution. There is no deity coming down from the heavens to save you. Progressivism won. There is no reform-based ideology. It's pull your kids. And I'm going to work with people who are homeschooling. I'm going to work with homeschool moms and dads and homeschoolers and homeschool co-ops. That's what I want to work with. My kids will probably be homeschooled. If I have kids, I don't have kids yet. I'm going back and forth on having kids because I really don't want them to grow up in a country like this, because it's only going to get worse. So I'm kind of waffling. But look, I'm going to go homeschool kids, and that's defying 98% or 94% of kids go to public schools. It is defying social norms to send your kids to homeschool and not send your kids to public school. Let's do it. Another way of defiance is public charities or private charities. I opened a not-for-profit in 2020 that helps disabled, it helps the homeless, stuff like that, because a lot of people believe government's going to help the less fortunate. If we just vote harder for the right politicians, they're going to solve the homeless problem. They're going to solve the poverty problem. If I just pay a little bit more in taxes, they'll solve poverty. No. They have no incentive to solve poverty, because if the government solved poverty, they wouldn't have to have all the jobs, the essentially glorified welfare that is the jobs program. All those would go away. So then they'd either have to make a new crisis, or they can keep bilking you for your tax dollars, saying, hey, if you just paid a little bit more in taxes, we'd solve poverty. There was a study done that something like X dollars will solve poverty, yet government, or X dollars will solve homelessness or world hunger, poverty, some study. Yet the United States government collects significantly more than that every year and hasn't solved any of these problems because it doesn't want to. It doesn't need to. There's no incentive for the government to solve the problems, because then they would have to stop taking your tax dollars. It's much easier for them to say, hey, poverty is a problem. If you all just pay your taxes, we can hire 500,000 people to combat poverty and have a new agency called, social services to combat poverty, and we'll hire 500,000 people to work for it. They'll all make a ton of money. We didn't solve any poverty, but hey, 500,000 people got jobs on your back, so congratulations. It's simple as that. Same thing with climate change, poverty, homelessness. It's all a jobs program. So how do you combat and solve poverty? Find local charities. And the big ones kind of suck too. Don't get me started on the larger charities. We're not going to go into that. But smaller ones, we started a not-for-profit. We've helped a handful of people. We haven't raised much. Most of it has been raised by, private. Actually, all of it's been private donations. A lot of it comes from me. I own an accounting firm by trade. I'm quite successful. I've done a lot of good things, and I'm pretty good at what I do. So I've made good money, and it's my way of giving back instead of paying taxes, which I do pay taxes, don't get me wrong. But instead of just saying I should just pay more in taxes, I donate to a private charity, and we help a handful of causes a month, whether it's people getting books, people getting school supplies. We just helped someone in West Seneca who had his bike stolen at work. We helped people rebuild their homes. We helped elderly people who lost their husband or wife, fix their homes, make it more accessible for people with disabilities. We do homeless care packages. We did fed the homeless recently, stuff like that. You can you have two options. You can be lazy and hope that the government solves the problems, or you can get off your ass and solve them yourself. And that's really what Defiance is about. And the Defiance agenda, it's direct action. It's saying that, yeah, I could pay more in taxes, so some loser related to a politician can get a job in an office somewhere, or I can roll up my sleeves and start actually helping people myself and waking people up to how community can benefit communities. Another great example of Defiance is staying in shape. I'm a little bit hypocritical here. I will say I did have my annual checkup yesterday, and everything is fine except I'm a little overweight. I'm a little chubby. I stress eat. COVID was rough. And I stress ate, so I'm a little chubby. My doctor gave me a little bit of crap for that. So I really am a little hypocritical when I say one way of Defiance is cooking your own food, taking care of yourself, growing your own crops, having chickens if you can. None of these things are illegal per se. It's just different than the average social norms. Physical fitness is freedom. If you're not overweight and slovenly, you're not on disability for being morbidly obese because you eat Twinkies all day, well, then you can take care of yourself better. You're not on disability relying on the government to take care of you, which means you're not as able to be controlled or manipulated if the government shuts things down. We have a large chunk of the population whose income depends on the government, which means if the government cuts that income, you're shit out of luck. Well, then they can in some ways control your decision making and what you do. We see this a lot with businesses. The government uses regulations to shut businesses down. They use code enforcement. They use occupational licensing. A lot of these things are bullshit ways for government to stop people that they deem unfit. They deem unfit because they speak out against them to prevent them from making a living to support their family, to coerce them and force them and kind of brute force bully them into complying with whatever they're doing. We saw this during COVID. Our state government threatened to pull licenses and pull code enforcement to shut businesses down who weren't complying with the lockdown. It's just bullying people into complying, and that's what the government is good at. And that's when the government's a hammer and everyone's a nail, and that's what they're going to do. And so a lot of people ask me, when their politician loses, or I say voting is a sham. That's not right. You got to vote. Look, you can vote all you want. You can vote as hard as you want, as many times as you want. The political class doesn't give a shit about you. And I'm interested in finding the people across Western New York, mostly because that's where I live. Maybe eventually Tennessee or New Hampshire, which is where I'll end up in the next handful of years. I will probably leave New York State. I'm currently a victim of New York State, so I'm waffling on what I'm going to do next. But look, I will end up leaving, and I want to find the people that are more like me. A study just came out that people are fleeing areas to find people that more, relate more to them politically. And I'm not necessarily looking for people that I relate to politically. It's more of a mindset and ideology, which is self-reliance, self-sustenance, and not a reliance on the government, political class, political parties, political organizations, or politicians, or bureaucrats. Look, the government is a glorified welfare and jobs program. There's two types of welfare. There's you don't work, here's welfare. Hey, you're incompetent, here's a government job, it's glorified welfare. And that's really it. That's what people need to understand, is the only thing the government does well is take your tax dollars to form a bureaucracy to, quote, solve a problem, because now they've essentially created jobs through a glorified welfare program. And I need to find people who understand that. I want to work with people who understand that and are sick of relying on politicians to solve their problems, sick of relying on the political class to solve their problems, sick of relying on government paychecks to solve their problems, and want to actually start to impact change locally through direct action and defiance and living their own lifestyle. that's really what this is about. This is kind of a summary of where I've been up to the last few weeks. I launched a website for the State of Defiance. I'm not going to put it up because it's not done yet. We're still creating it. But it really talks about finding resources where you can learn how to do things. Homesteading. Look, I'll give you an example of Defiance. Jury nullification, homesteading, homeschooling, Second Amendment training, First Amendment auditing, learning CPR and first aid. You are your own first responder. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be robbed. You may hurt yourself. You may be out cutting a tree and fall out of the tree and mess up your leg, and learning first aid, learning CPR, learning stuff like that so you can help someone, or God forbid, you're in a store and someone has a problem. You are the first responder. It's taking care of your community. There's more. I had it written down, but I didn't put the paper somewhere. There's like 20 or 30 different options. Raising chickens, having a backyard garden and taking care of yourself, cooking, going to the gym, staying in shape, working out, Jim Ostrowski's Liberty Walking, stuff like that. And I reached out to a handful of people. One guy I'm really excited to talk to. He's out of New Hampshire. He does food freedom and learning how to forage, learning how to take care of yourself in that regard. That's what the Defiance Agenda is about, and it's what it is. It's relying on yourself to learn the skills needed to survive without begging a politician or a bureaucrat to do it for you. And that's really what I want to put out there. It's going to be a small population, chunk of the population that's going to do it, but that's all we need. I need to find those people, work with those people, and support those people. So that's really what we're doing. That's my update. Next week will be more political or more targeted. I'm going to talk about why I'm running for county executive, which I just said don't believe in politicians. Listen, never trust a politician, except for right now when I tell you to never trust politicians. That's actually a Spike Cohen quote. I stole that from him. He was our Libertarian VP candidate in 2020. But seriously, you never trust a politician. I have more faith. I'd rather have Casey Anthony open up a daycare than trust any politician to believe in anything they're saying. So before I sign out, next week I'm going to have a list of what my topics are going to be about. This was kind of just a hodgepodge catch up. I'm happy to be back. Ignore my windows. I'm not sure how I feel about this frame up. Also ignore my flag. It's wrinkled. I store it because I like this flag a lot. So got a little wrinkled. I didn't have time to unwrinkle it today. But before I sign off, a couple things I'm going to pitch. If you like what you see and you want to help, I did start a not-for-profit called the New York Volunteer Network. We're trying to find donors to help solve projects. I'm going to put up I'm going to put this up there. We're trying to find $1,000 a month in monthly recurring donations. This would allow us to more efficiently streamline our projects. Our goal is to do 2 a month. And a lot of times it gets tough because we have a project. Someone emails me, hey, I need help. It's going to cost $1,000. I then have to call the donors or find the donors, find the people to donate to the not-for-profit to do the project. If we can start bringing in, X dollars a month earmarked to the projects, when a project comes in, if we have the money, boom, we can fire it off. It's done. We're on to the next one. That helps us market better. It saves my time, and it's more efficient. And that's what we're really looking for. So if you guys have a couple extra bucks to throw around, please feel free to join, New York Volunteer Network. I'll actually put up a couple things, what we're working on, so you guys can actually see what we're doing. This one here, it take a second. First one I just put up is the $1,000 month recurring. This one, we're trying to raise 12 grand. We actually did this a couple of years ago and it worked really, really well. It's a lot of money, but 12 grand, we were in touch with a wholesale company. They're going to send us mittens, gloves, scarves, etc. This says for the homeless, but we're actually going to do it in probably Buffalo, Syracuse, and Rochester for anyone. We get these hat, glove, mitten combos. And if you have kids, it's cold in the winter, you don't have a lot of money, we can give these out. They're pretty great. I actually used a pair to try out a pair. I beat the crap out of a pair. I took it out in the winter and just wore them every day doing, work, labor stuff, not a ton of labor. I'm an accountant, but, shoveling, fixing stuff. And I beat the hell out of them, and they last. So they were really good for, people that, need it. The last thing is this is our big project we're working on. We had a guy who's a veteran, lost his legs during COVID. If you go to the site, there's a write-up on him. But we're essentially trying to raise $18,500 to for Stephen here. He's trying to make his house accessible for him. He's disabled. He's in a wheelchair. He's not comfortable in his own house because he can't really move around in it. And so we're raising the funds to help him be more mobile and able to, move around in his own house. So that's really what we're up to. This is a form of direct action. This is a form of defiance. We can ask the government to help these people, or we can do it ourselves. And I'm sick of asking politicians for help. I don't believe in them. So that's what I'm up to. That's what we are up to. We'll be back next week every Wednesday at 7. I do these. I usually like to keep them to 10 to 15, 12 to 15 minutes. No one wants to hear me talk for that long because no one gives a shit about me, and you shouldn't. I'm just nobody. But we're a little over time today. But that's what I'm up to. State of Defiance website coming soon. A better Duane Whitmer website coming soon that'll talk about State of Defiance and who I am and why you should trust me. And New York Volunteer Network websites being worked on as we speak. These are things, if you're in Western New York or even up to Central New York, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to work with you. If you're ready to defy the political class and social norms and start taking care of yourself without reliance on a central bureaucracy, we'd love to network with you. We'd love to work with you. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today was a hodgepodge, mostly getting back into it. I will see you next Wednesday where I'm going to talk about some more stuff. So we'll see. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Enjoy your week. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.